Welcome back. And now it goes to the Senate. An historic week in Washington where the House of Representatives brought 2 articles of impeachment and impeached President Trump. Now the articles go to the Senate, but how soon might that happen? Joining me right now with reaction is Senator Ted Cruz of Texas on the Foreign Relations and Judiciary Committees. And, Senator, it is always a pleasure to see you.
It's great to be with you, Maria.
Thank you so much for joining us. So Nancy Pelosi said after the impeachment that maybe she'll sit on the articles of impeachment before sending it over to you and your colleagues in the Senate. Can she do that?
You can't make this up. Listen, I think this is a sign of weakness. This is a sign she understands just how weak these articles are. And these articles of impeachment that they actually voted on were really an admission of failure. The House Democrats haven't alleged any high crimes and misdemeanors, much less proven any. And so now Pelosi is in a situation that she knows when it goes to the Senate, it's going to be a fair trial. We're going to give both sides the opportunity to present their case. We're going to protect due process. But she also knows the result of a fair trial is these impeachment claims are going to be thrown out because they haven't met the constitutional standard.
Do you want to see witnesses in a Senate trial?
I would, but let me tell you how I think it's likely to play out. The trial will start in early January. It'll start with the Chief Justice of the United States swearing in all 100 senators. It will then shift to the House managers presenting their case. That'll probably take several days. They'll stand up, they'll walk through evidence, they'll make arguments. Then it'll shift to the White House, to the defense team for the president making their case. And the president's going to have a full and fair opportunity to defend himself. It then will shift to questions. Now, here's where it's a little weird. I think some people, having seen what happened in the House, they're expecting in the Senate to see a bunch of senators asking questions.
Yeah.
Well, the Senate impeachment rules prohibit any senator from speaking in open session. In other words, when the TV cameras are on. So you're not going to see Elizabeth Warren and me going 15 rounds on the Senate floor because that's not allowed. We're both going to be sitting quietly in our desks. Now, we can submit questions, but the questions have to be in writing. And so we can write out the question, we hand them down, and the Chief Justice asks the questions from the senators. I think at that point, we're likely to recess and have a discussion. I think one of 2 things will happen. One, it is possible that a majority of the Senate will be prepared. Let's move forward. Let's vote. They haven't met their threshold. They haven't come close. Let's reject these claims. I think that's an outcome that could happen.
Okay.
Secondly, there could well be a procedural fight. Do we need more evidence? Do we need more witnesses? In which case, that question is decided by 51 senators. Every legal question. The Chief Justice can rule in the first instance, but the Chief Justice can be overruled by 51 senators. I think John Roberts is very likely to follow the Rehnquist precedent and just defer the procedural questions to the Senate, which means if 51 Republicans agree, we can resolve any legal issue. And to me, that means if the president wants to call Hunter Biden, if the president wants to call the whistleblower, due process mandates that we allow the president to defend himself, to make his case. And so I think we should do so. But that's a decision in the first place for the president and the White House legal team. Based
on what you know today, do you expect any Republicans to vote to impeach in the Senate?
I don't. It is certainly possible, and then there are a couple that could vote that way. But I think anyone voting on the facts, anyone voting on the law, this is a very easy vote. What they have alleged is not a high crime or misdemeanor. As weak, there are 2 articles. The first article is just this amorphous abuse of power. Yeah. Which, by the way, is maladministration. It's literally the term that was rejected in the Constitutional Convention. That's what they're alleging.
Right.
That plainly doesn't meet the constitutional threshold. The second article, though, is orders of magnitude weaker. So the second article is obstruction of Congress. And interestingly enough, people are used to obstruction of justice.
Yeah, I've never heard of obstruction of Congress, by the way. I've heard of obstruction of power or
obstruction
of justice.
Obstruction of justice is a crime. It's a felony. It's a serious felony.
But they named it obstruction of Congress.
Because they couldn't prove obstruction of justice. By the way, Bill Clinton was impeached on obstruction of justice. Richard Nixon was going to be impeached on obstruction of justice. They couldn't prove obstruction of justice. The basis for their so-called obstruction of Congress claim is that the president and aides in the executive asserted privileges. That's it. That, for example, when they wanted John Bolton to testify, John Bolton, National Security Advisor of the president, his lawyer went to a federal district court and said, the House has asked me to testify, the White House is asserting executive privilege. Your Honor, what do I do? Judge, I've got two conflicting demands here. I'll do what you tell me to, Your Honor. You know what the House Democrats did? They said, never mind. They just backed away. They didn't subpoena Bolton. They didn't litigate it. Remember, the Nixon case was litigated all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court? U.S. Supreme Court, at the end of the day, ordered the White House to hand over the White House tape, and I think 2 days later, Richard Nixon resigned. That's how you actually fight these matters. Yeah. The House Democrats didn't do that. Instead, their assertion is simply claiming a privilege is an impeachable offense. If that were true, all 45 presidents, going back to George Washington, every one of them would have committed impeachable offenses. Well, that's just laughable.
This is a new precedent. It sure is.